Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and it looks like we're getting the very first wave of PvP nerfs happening to rogues, at least on the beta, but eventually these nerfs are going to make it slowly into the live servers. These nerfs are currently available on the beta, and a lot of classes have gotten adjusted. Some got buffed, some got nerfed, but in this video I'm going to cover primarily the rogue changes on all three specializations: Assassination, Outlaw, and Subtlety, as well as the general changes that happen to the rogue class on the beta, mostly for PvP. These changes are PvP specific, as in they're trying to adjust and tune abilities that seem to be a little out of hand. Instead of just flat nerfing the spec by, let's say, 30% worth of damage, they're going into specific abilities, buffs, debuffs, talents, and honor talents, and tuning them accordingly with precision as to not upset the rest of the structures of each class. The fact that Blizzard is doing this kind of change instead of just a flat nerf for one spec or a flat buff for another, the fact that they're going into every single ability is a good thing. So even as a rogue player, you might not be happy to hear that there's nerfs happening, but at least you'll be happy that Blizzard is focusing on specific abilities, talents, or effects in order to not completely break the class or the spec outright. So without further ado, let's get on to the video. The way this video is going to be structured is as follows. I'm going to present you guys a talent, like for example Prayer in the Week, a very popular talent for PvP for all three specs of rogues, as well as the change to it. And for Prayer in the Week, to be coincidenced, the change is going to be: after you CC an enemy and activate Prayer in the Week effect, you're going to deal 5% more damage to the enemy rather than 10. With this being said, the tooltips are not going to reflect the game accurately, and I will have a comment at the end of the video of what I think Blizzard can do for tooltips, as well as how you can catch up and follow every single ability change, but that is to wait towards the end of the video if you are interested. So as we said, Prayer in the Week is nerfed, but what else is nerfed as baseline? Death from above increases the damage of Eviscerate, Envenom, and Dispatch now by 10% rather than 15%. This is not really a big change. Overall, all three specs of Rogue are hitting pretty hard, so decrease on damage from Death from above is a very unique one, but I don't think it's going to affect the most of you. Now we will start this part of the video with other changes for each spec, starting with Assassination. First of all, nerfed Creeping Venom by 50% in terms of his damage, but also changed it so there is no longer a bug where Creeping Venom duration whenever an enemy moves around with that debuff, where it was refreshed longer than the original 6-second duration was needed. And the ability apparently was doing a bit of damage. This isn't really a big nerf, as the ability was doing a little bloated damage out on the beta. While talking about poisons, we also see that Deadly Poison deals 20% less damage to other players. On the terms of big cooldowns, Vendetta is getting a slight nerf by 10%. Instead of making you do 30% more damage to the enemy marked by Vendetta, now it is down to 20%. As far as Assassination Rogues go, Blizzard doesn't want to nerf the Assassination Rogue baseline good sustained damage, but when you have good strong sustained damage on top of a powerful Vendetta, then that baseline damage gets amplified by so much. So this is a slight nerf towards our burst while keeping the spec overall powerful with or without the burst. Similar on the same row of thought, Toxic Blade is also getting a nerf, where now it'll make you deal 20% more poison damage to the enemy rather than 30%. We also saw a damage nerf for the ability of Garrote, which now deals 20% less damage when struck against enemy players. And on top of that, Subterfuge causes Garrote to deal additional 50% damage when cast from stealth instead of 100, so this is a 50% nerf. The nerf to Garrote is not that bad. It nerfs our ability in open arena to be able to get some massive spread pressure and massive spread damage on more than one target. Instead of popping Garrotes on every single enemy and relying on that damage alone to melt everybody, we will also be one to apply Garrote and Rupture in order to have spread pressure. This will make the spec a little bit more tied towards energy regen, common points regen, and investing in those common points into your Ruptures, rather than just keeping Garrote on 3 targets and watching all 3 melt. With Garrote having a way shorter cooldown compared to Legion still means that you will have a pretty high Garrote uptime on more than one target. Blizzard is just trying to reduce just how much damage you can do in spread pressure and probably in burst situations by nerfing Garrote but not nerfing our other abilities like Envenom as well as Rupture. Then we're moving on to Outlaw Rogue and all the changes that are happening to Outlaw. For Outlaw Rogue's Plunder Armor's target reducing health effect is now 10% instead of 15, but also the Rogue health regain effect is now only 10% more health rather than 15, in order to kind of accustom both of the abilities as how they play off of one another. This change I think is done because Outlaw does decent damage without any kind of buffs needed, so it gives you more options rather than going insta Plunder Armor in every PvP situation. But also because Outlaw Rogues already deal good damage, you don't need that extra 5% of health reduction from an enemy in order to score a kill. On top of the same theory, they have nerfed Thick as Thieves, so now the damage increase by your Trickster trait is going to be only 10% instead of 15. When Outlaw Rogues used to tickle and barely do any damage, that 15% was the only moment where you actually dealt decent damage. But right now on BFA, Outlaw Rogues are doing phenomenally in terms of damage, so Blizzard decided instead of reducing their baseline damage, rather than nerf this ability by a little bit, because you already deal good damage, so the 10%, 15%, it won't make that much of a difference to you. And then we're gonna finish up with Subtlety Rogue changes. For Subtlety, the nerf came in form of Shuriken Combo, where Shuriken Combo now increases your visceral damage by only 3% per stack instead of 5%. This change is very minor, as it doesn't affect your single target damage whatsoever, which is the majority of your damage for PvP. It simply nerfs the capability of a Shuriken Combo, where you have this Wombo combo type of damage, where I guess people would combine together with DFA and Prey on the Weak, where Subtlety would have the slam down eviscerate damage that would basically one-shot people. The way Subtlety AoEs in Legion as well as BFA, you don't really do AoE damage. Well, you use AoE abilities, but the AoE abilities buff your single target damage, which makes Subtlety a very special case, especially in group PvP situations where the eviscerates can stack up for about 25% worth of damage. The last change to Subtlety is with Knight's Vengeance Azeroth trait, and they reduce the effectiveness of this trait by 66% in PvP situations. The Azeroth trait reads, Nightblade increases the damage of your next eviscerate within 8 seconds by a set amount. So I guess there was a maybe wombo combo for Subtlety Rogues that involved DFA, Prey on the Weak, the Shuriken Storm combo, as well as triple stack of Knight's Vengeance. So I could see that being a literal global one-shot for a Subtlety Rogue. I wish I learned about it sooner so I could test it in the video, and I guess now I really won't be able to. Overall, the changes for rogues are coming in, and it looks like Blizzard doesn't want to nerf what rogues are all about on the base level. It's good that they're going into specific abilities, like for Assassination, which has been seen to be one of the more popular specs and one of the strongest specs on the beta, and trying to kind of bring them down a notch, but not by a flat nerf for the whole spec altogether. It's kind of nice that they're not really touching Outlaw, as that spec finally deals good base damage, and them taking away a little bit of power from your cooldowns, I'm completely okay with, as long as my basic abilities are still hitting fairly hard. With Subtlety, they don't want to change the spec whatsoever in single target, they're just trying to eliminate some niche wombo combo that maybe allowed you to do incredible amounts of damage within a single global. Even though Subtlety can still do incredible amounts of damage, at least Blizzard, I guess, decided that they don't want them to just do it in a single press of a button, but rather over a series of buttons, kind of like how you would in an open or burst rotation. Overall, I won't really call these crazy nerfs. They are to tone down the damage, but you won't really call them as a nerf bad. It seems like Blizzard is kind of just patting rogues down a little bit, but not really trying to get us completely under their boot, which I can definitely appreciate as a rogue main. Anyway guys, this is everything that's going on with rogues on the beta. I am not sure exactly when these changes are going to hit live servers, but they'll eventually make their way over there. So if you're an Assassination Rogue and you're noticing your poisons and your vendetta and your garrote not really hitting nearly as hard, then you know that these nerfs have happened. On top of this, I do want to mention something that a lot of these tooltips you're not going to be able to see off the bat. And it would be kind of nice if Blizzard added some sort of an implemented system where we ourselves can see how a lot of these abilities are affected within PvP. There's a lot of hidden tooltips that none of us really ever see, and there's a lot of different variables that abilities do in PvP encounters. So it would be awesome if Blizzard added some sort of maybe a baseline tooltip, maybe once you enable war mode, where you can see the original tooltip as well as the PvP changes of that tooltip. Maybe the percentage at which certain abilities buff your damage, or the percentage at which they do damage, or their effectiveness. There's a lot of tooltips to keep track of, and if you're somebody who's interested in that kind of information, I will link down below an add-on that gives you all the PvP tooltips. While that add-on does kind of do the job that I'm hoping Blizzard ends up doing, the add-on does need to be updated all the time, and if whoever is the writer of the add-on ever decides to discontinue it or decides to stop adding extra tooltips for PvP, maybe they'll get bored of it, maybe they'll move on to other projects, then you won't have the most accurate information. If Blizzard themselves were to make some sort of a PvP tooltip, something you could enable maybe in settings, or simply enable by switching on war mode and seeing the differences between PvE and PvP side of a tooltip, then it would give a lot of PvPers that are trying to really learn their spec, trying to combine a lot of the guides, trying to combine a lot of the abilities and learn how to play their class, it will give them a bit more accurate information to play around with. So I think it'll be something cool if they were to implement it, but again, if you're interested, I will have the add-on, feel free to use it, but you might find yourself maybe updating that add-on quite a lot. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on Rogue nerfs, which nerfs are looking good, which nerfs are you not agreeing with. Feel free to voice your opinions in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Giving videos likes helps my videos reach a wider audience, so this video with all the changes and nerfs and how they affect people, if you guys help like this video, it'll reach a lot more people. If you guys enjoy maybe updates on videos, maybe rogue updates or anything PvP related when it comes to rogues, and you want to be caught up to anything that is new, anything that comes out, or any future rogue PvP guides, feel free to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell because subscribe button sometimes doesn't even reach people. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.